Well, 2 days after the propped-up Democrat operative posing as a Facebook whistleblower, Frances Haugen, testified before Congress, Mark Zuckerberg and company penned a statement calling for more rules, not just on Facebook, but internet-wide. Facebook Director of Policy Communications says this: "We don't agree with Frances's characterization of the many issues she testified about. Despite all this, we agree on one thing. It's time to begin to create standard rules for the internet. It's time for Congress to act." So here's my opinion. Mission accomplished on behalf of Facebook. Frances, technically, the federal government, has no control over this. This is the rallying cry to change that. Facebook wants to lead the charge so they can have a man at the table making the rules that will be forced on private organizations internet-wide to control what you see, what you say on there, okay? Ultimately, what you think. This has been the plan all along, and now phase one is underway. Well, joining me now is a real Facebook whistleblower, one who knows all about their censorship efforts, the author of The Mask of Facebook, a whistleblower's shocking story of big tech bias and censorship. Ryan Hartwig is here. Ryan, it is great to have you back on the program.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Grant. It's a pleasure to be here.
Ryan, I don't know if I was the first to say it, but I was early on to say that I think this was a phony whistleblower, that she may have even been a plant, because she gives Facebook tons of cover. She says there's not enough censorship. What do you think about that philosophy and this so-called whistleblower that came out?
Yeah, as the days go by, we're finding out more and more about this person. And, you know, she instantly had a Wikipedia page set up. I don't even have a Wikipedia page yet. She has a blue check mark on Twitter. So there's a lot of things. And now we know that Bill Burton, Democrat operative, is running her PR thing. I've never had a publicist, I can tell you that much. I've done it all on my own. More than 160 interviews in the last year. But yeah, her main points are that Facebook needs more censorship. They didn't do enough. And my book documents over 30 examples of them doing too much to censor Americans, and in this case, conservatives, leading up to the 2020 election. And so, you know, she makes the case of protecting the children, of course, for our public safety, in order to give more control over to the government or to Facebook to censor even more content.
Look, when she talks about all the dangers on the internet, she was pointing basically only at conservative groups, people that I don't even think have been proven yet to be dangerous, as this big threat. This has been a common theme from the left. She didn't talk at all about Black Lives Matter, the 500 riots, also that were planned and plotted with help of social media, all the outlets. She sure is coming across as a Democrat operative, isn't she?
No, yeah, she is. She's making all the points that they would make. I have evidence showing that Facebook specifically told us not to flag Antifa as a hate group going back to 2017. And so, you know, she's talking about that she lost a friend to online conspiracy theories. When I say I lost a friend, usually it means they passed away. But she lost a friend because they differed in their political views. And so that was the whole reason she started at Facebook, was she could make a difference and change how they tackle misinformation, which is defined, of course, by them. And I saw that firsthand. I studied Facebook's internal policies for 2 years, and it's very subjective, and they can change their policies whenever they'd like. But yeah, their definitions of hate speech and misinformation tend to target right-wing groups, and people like Gavin McInnes are put on their hate list together with Hitler.
It certainly isn't a fair playing field, that's for sure. Let me play a soundbite from Frances here at the latest hearing. Take a listen.
In the end, the buck stops with Mark. There's no one currently holding Mark accountable but himself. Mark has built an organization that is very metrics-driven. It is intended to be flat. There is no unilateral responsibility. The metrics make the decision. Unfortunately, that itself is a decision. And in the end, if he is the CEO and the chairman of Facebook, he is responsible for those decisions.
See, I think that actually takes pressure off of Mark Zuckerberg, because if she's saying the metrics make all the decisions, Zuckerberg could say, hey, I make the decisions, but it's metrics that decide this. I'm not sure that's really true, Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, as far as that goes, there are, I mean, Zuckerberg, he could improve, but I'll be honest, there's some points, and I'll be fair. In my book, there's some things that Facebook did right. A couple of things. For every 2 they did right, there's 10 they did wrong. But he held back for a long time from censoring political ads. He was one of the last holdouts. Twitter caved pretty early, and he held out for a while to not censor any political ads. So, I mean, what is wrong about being metrics based? There's nothing wrong with that, and it's better than being subjective. And so I feel like she's saying that it's a betrayal of democracy, but yeah, focusing on the numbers, there's nothing wrong with focusing on the statistics and numbers.
Well, Ryan Hartwig, it's always a pleasure having you on the program. I thank you for speaking out on this important topic.
Yeah, thanks, Grant.